Let's give like,
I can hear you. It's the AI voice started.
hey, let's give a couple more minutes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Louis, it's 8:04. Let's get started.
Okay. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So now we are on week two, leading AI adoption across teams. Last week, we talked about how important it is have AI, what sort of the paradigm shifts that happen, why aren't we seeing that ROI, and is it really just hype, right? I think we were able to conclude that it isn't just hype. There actually real value. So if we understand that there's not hype and it's real value, how can this value happen? And what are different ways we can implement this in terms of a business sense? Now, last week I talked about what we're going to be discussing this week. So in week two, we're learning how to guide teams through change management. How do we actually push AI through the business? How we upskill teams if we're responsible for them? Responsible Gen AI usage, and what are the capabilities? So before we start this week's part, we discussed that we're going to be doing case studies. This is really going to test your knowledge and your team of what happened last week and really how do we combat what's the stereotype of Gen AI. So each team will be split into each person in this group will be split into groups of five. In these groups of five, you'll be discussing each different case studies. We'll be outputting the group one, group two, group three, group four, group five. And in these groups, each one has a separate problem that we talked about last week. We'll be discussing everything through Miro, so I'll be putting that in the chat. Just a second here. Just give me here. I'll put it in the chat. You'll need a password to access it. So this is the password that I'll put in the chat as well. In the Miro board, as you go into groups of, I mean, go into the different groups, you'll see the problem statement that you'll have, and then you have to work together as a team within 10 minutes to sort of come up with a solution and what's really the benefit scope and how would you explain it to a business holder that you should go forward with this. So the Miro board, once you're able to click on it, let me just share my screen on this side now. Should have the top questions for each group, group one, group two, group three. group 4, and group 5. What's the problem that's going to be discussed? And what's the goal of what you're trying to achieve? So each team will sort of have 10 minutes to go through each of these different problem statements. I gave a business case example for those who are stuck of what parts should go under the problem, solution, the benefits, the scope. If there's something that may not make sense, example, you don't have the cost yet, just leave those blank, or what metrics you think if you're going down that route, what could it be? Underneath this would be the templates you can use. In these templates, your group is assigned under each one, group 3, group 2, group 1. And you simply just click a sticky note and be able to write what your problem is under there. And then after these 10 minutes, we'll quickly present what each person was able to do based on what the problem is. Each team will have sort of 5 minutes to present what the team came up through their problems and understanding really what we talked about last week. So as you're getting connected to the board, please let me know if you have any issues trying to sign in. If you can't sign in, just please write something on the board. But in the meantime, maybe I'll ask Manoj to help start breaking the people into the 5 groups.
Yeah. So doing it randomly right now, 5 different groups, we are 25.
Is there a way to name the groups so each person would know which groups they're in?
No, I think we can assign them manually, automatically, that's it.
Okay.
I would request each group members to remember who are there in your groups, so that it is easier for the next time.
Okay.
Okay, I'm creating the groups. Okay, let me quickly take a screenshot of this so that it's easy for me next time. So we can keep the same groups, right? Going forward also.
Yep.
Okay, I have the groups. I'm creating. Okay, I created the groups.
Okay. You might have to give me
Yes.
this is for now.
Yes,
And
yes.
okay. All right, everyone. I'll put a timer on the Miro board. So I'll write that in the chat. So we're just going in there now.
Yeah, we are the host.
Okay, perfect. All right, were you assigned to a group, Manoj?
Let me check.
I'll put you to group 1.
I am being assigned to. I'm not been assigned to any group. But
Oh,
it's okay. Sure.
let's see. Well, you should be.
I think you can assign me to group 5 because group 5 has only.
I put you in group 1 and it says Manoj not joined.
Okay, I'll join. Okay, sure. No worries.
Yeah, perfect. All right. I think everyone is back. Okay, I know it seemed quick, right? But it was actually 15 minutes. Plus, I think I gave an extra 1 minute, so 16 minutes. I know it's really hard to come up with a strategy in that time, but I know you're all well prepared and really smart. So especially with five people on a team, well over prepared, rather than five brains better than one. So what we'll be doing is going through each group. So we'll have group one, and each group will sort of present what was the business problem, what was the goal they needed to achieve, and how they thought about what could be a possible solution, what could be their benefits, etc., what they received as a group. So I'm trying to keep it like 5 minutes per group, simply because there's five groups from us. So, and then I'll ask probably 1 minute from feedback from anyone from the other groups. What else can be done from there? So we'll start with group one. Do you have a representative from group one who wants to share the ideas that the group thought about the problem and what was the solution?
Manoj, you wanna go?
You want me to go? Sure, I can.
You can co-present.
Yeah, so the group one's problem was to it's a retail giant which has come up with their AI solutions in their company, and they're not meeting the expectations. So there is a lot of dissatisfaction, and there is a lot of concern from the stakeholders. So the problem that we wanted to present mainly from two facets, right? One is from the customer side of it, how the customer like from the concern from the stakeholders versus the concern from the customers. So we want to tackle two different styles of problems here. So first thing was if we talk about the stakeholders problem, right? So here we are talking about cost savings did not meet the expectations. And the second one, the second concern from the stakeholders is reducing the number of time the customers are spending on trying to get the request and trying to solve their problems. And it is leading to more time spending by the customer. So that is one of the problems. So, and again, the other point from the customer's time is also is not able to completely trust the AI support, or that is one of the things. So as part of the solutions, we discussed about having more trainings for the level one so that it will be less time spent. There is sorry, this around. Okay, revise the expectations and understand the time it takes time for all the teams to embrace it, right? And also engage to get more feedback, and also trust with the customers, right? To make customers also understand the AI tools and get them familiar with it. And again, right? So resources from the resources side, additional discounts and getting SMEs, data engineers, and end users to like we need more people here so that they can implement better tooling and better understanding here. That is the resources that we wanted to come up with. And coming to benefits, it will definitely reduce the cost. It will provide better experience for the customers. And eventually, right? Eventually, with more people, more AI implementation in the company, we will have less cost comparatively to the number of people that we want to maintain and train them and have the other information. So, yeah, this is also one of the points that we want to highlight here. Again, stakeholders is executive sponsor of the project, and of course the company parties here. But yeah, we could not come to the scope or risk or anything else. We are stuck
Oh, no
in.
worries. Yeah, no worries, no worries.
So
Anyone else from group one want to? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, one more point I want to add to what Manoj said is one is we're talking about the expectations, right? So it is what is realistic expectations also probably there's a disconnect what we can really build. So we need to do like maybe revisit that benefits, right? Do a reset, do some analysis on what is the true benefit, because now like you can take the tire has hit the road. So now we can go back and say, hey, whatever expectations that we were anticipating, probably that's not realistic. Resetting those things to say, hey, we probably thought all the support level, everybody want to be probably be displacing, but that's not true. But some element of that is required. So just doing that piece of it and drawing out that is also important. I just wanted to bring that up.
Awesome, awesome. Like maybe making a, like you were saying before, a realistic phased approach.
Yes.
Maybe breaking it into phases of certain areas and seeing if there's benefits in certain areas and focus on those. So definitely different tools or strategies you can think about. Anyone else would like to maybe have ideas what would happen in problem one that you could add on? No, Manoj, I think you had your hand up again.
No, this is Srinivas. Yeah.
No, no, sorry. Sorry.
Also want to understand like it's a good problem, but we are asking like again the cost increase. To save the cost, we are asking for like additional cost in terms of like additional SMEs, data engineers, and end users. That is something actually like why actually like it's a short term or long term, it was not clear. Probably it should be called out, or the risks is probably like short term, the cost increase, that could be a risk, right? So just want to call it out.
Yeah, the only reason, or at least that I added, is we are saying expectations were not met. Like cost savings, they did not see. The only reason we can think of is customer adoption is not happening. So it could be more short term, improving the model, making it more adaptable, and fine tuning it so that it's more like a project based thought process here, not in a long term maintenance. Make a tool or improve the tool for better adoption. So eventually you will see some cost savings.
To add this, the scope is also we want to add is like the quality of the internal data which can be make use of the AI tools to train and is available for the customers.
Thank you. And this is exactly what the point of this exercise was, right? These are real life examples like we saw before that companies and businesses are facing. So what are ways how we can help solve those issues? So really great discussion in group one. Due to time, we'll have to switch to group two now. All right, group two.
Does anyone else in the group 2 wants to go? Or?
Yeah, I can, maybe we can do together. I can do the problem solution part. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Okay. For the group 2, the problem is human versus AI roles in the workplace. An engineering firm fearing that the widespread adoption of generative AI will displace human roles. So our goal is to develop a strategy that leverages AI to augment human capabilities here. So the main problem what we saw is uncertainty in the employees, a lack of knowledge, and everybody has a job insecurity feeling there, which gives the resistance, which brings in the resistance here. So people are not ready to adopt, or people are really fearing what it does if we start using the generative AI or any AI tools. So the solution, what we are proposing is mostly on the change management. How do we strategize the change management processes? Like we can say like ADKAR processes, like bring in awareness to the employees slowly in each domain, what tools can be used, how can they leverage them, and how can they use them to increase their productivity on a day-to-day basis.
And also the training.
Yes,
giving
the
them
training
the
pieces.
sufficient training, not only on the new technologies, also on the new processes.
Processes, yes. So once you start having these training plans, start communicating to them, show the capabilities, and sorry, I'm not able to see them. Okay. And also in between to make sure people are more engaged, organize some fun games or hackathons so that people can see what others are doing and also get in a fun way engaged and learn the tools more. And assuring employees. So it's not just the employee engagement. It is also providing on a periodical basis, like how much productivity they are seeing, how much more the employees are able to perform. any reports, sharing the reports on a monthly or weekly basis, showcasing the results of them using the AI, how well they are performing, how much their productivity increased. That also will be a motivating factor for them. And coming to the resources, we need GenAI tools, and we need they are expensive for sure. We need budget for them, and we also need dedicated employees' time to explore and get comfortable with this. And we need a separate team to dedicatedly plan and make sure the company has a vision, and this vision is communicated to everybody, and on a regular basis have team champions. Identify some team champions and make sure they allot separate time, making sure they address any questions from their team or any concerns they bring back to the original group, indicating that, hey, my team is really not feeling good about this tool, this may not be helpful. So bringing back such inputs to the organizing team. So in those areas, we will need resources, especially the having a clear vision for the company and a long-term plan or a short-term plan. That will really help improve the employee engagement there.
And establishing a COE also helps there.
Yeah. Take it over, Sridhar.
Yeah, I mean, no. I'm just adding that on the resources, establishing a COE also helps there.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and it's just a ton. This is great. This is awesome. This is what I feel should be involved. And to me, when I look at this, yeah, you guys covered a lot of scope, covered a lot of things in a short time. So really, really kudos to this team. When I think about this sort of needs to be, again, like you're saying, a top-down strategy, right? This needs to be working with IT, HR. How do you know that? How are you knowing that people are afraid, right? You need pulse surveys. You need to create, like you're saying, campaigns, hackathons. Are we doing pulse surveys before and after to catch the pulse of the organization if they feel that way? This reminds me of an article that just came out yesterday that said AI is coming for white-collar jobs. So when people are constantly reading articles in the news that constantly threaten their job, and you see the companies starting to embrace AI, this is a huge, huge thing that HR needs to have their pulse on and seeing if they feel that anyone in the company feels at risk, right? Because this could be a high performer jumping to another company simply because this company established an AI COE or establishing some Gen AI agents, right? So this is something that also needs to be looked at as ramifications. So this is exactly all great strategies, and hope everyone can remember. Everyone has access to this board afterwards as well. So if you need to refer back to it and grab these great ideas, please go ahead. So great job, Group 2.
Thank you.
All right, Group 3 is still Group 3 is awesome, still going at it. All right, so Group 3, let's go. What's going on with this problem statement?
So, Vani, you want to take it up?
No, one of you can take Jayashree or Shravanti.
Okay, yeah, I'll go ahead then. Shravanti, you want to go over it? Okay, I don't see her. Okay, let me go over
Please
it.
go ahead, Jayashree.
So basically, for Group 3, the problem statement was there is a agile software development firm who adopted an AI-assisted development process, but they were struggling to maintain the quality standards and also to effectively communicate amongst the teams. So the goal of this team was to actually propose strategies for balancing their development cycles so that they can effectively maintain their quality and also improve on their documentation. And we also want to see how they can communicate between the teams to achieve their goal. So that was the problem statement. And who has the problem here was the development firm, because why was it important? We wanted to they basically wanted to maintain quality standards and also to make sure all the teams are working together. So in the compression effort, so the solution that we proposed was As usual for any other projects, they need to have weekly calls. They need to have Jira boards where they can document everything so that it works as a documentation. And the main solution that we discussed about was to have common frameworks and hiring an AI expert who can help with the overall development. And using AI tools and AI frameworks, they can rapidly develop. So these using AI agents, they are, as we discussed, they are tireless agents. They can continue to keep working. They can help us assist in unit test case development so that we maintain the code quality. And because AIs can also do more research, they can help us with rapid development. And we also talked about standardizing each of these processes so that everyone can make use of it. So, and by standardizing it, we talked about vector alignment, right? So by standardizing and individuals contributing to each of the tasks, others can also benefit out of it by reusing what an individual already developed, contributing to the overall team efficiency. So those are some of the solutions that we discussed. And resources are AI experts, AI tools, and can you zoom in the screen? Okay. Yeah. And cross team collaboration with AI having expertise in different capabilities, right? It can develop, it can write test case, it can document, it can give us an ongoing documentation. So we need to make use of the AI capabilities to actually do our job more faster and rapidly iterate over different solutions. So what are the benefits of using all these tools? We can rapidly iterate and rapidly develop what we want to achieve. Like in a hackathon, you come with a prototype and keep improving on it. And also AI tools can help us with ongoing documentation as we work on the solutions. And we are also maintaining Jira boards so that individuals can document, and they can also take help of AI tools to document what they are working on. And this will help us with cross team collaboration instead of doing one job at a time, like developing, testing, coming up with the requirements. We can using a collaborative using a collaborative platform. Now all teams can work together, and using AI, since it has the knowledge of everything, it can help everyone with what others are working on, and can help effectively improve the cross team communication. And obviously quick delivery cycles and scope. Okay, what is the solution? Can you just scroll a little bit? I don't see the scope question. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had the.
Yeah. So the solution basically involves introducing AI agents, introducing AI tools, and providing sessions to all the team members so that they can learn quickly about the AI tools that they can make use of, and defining the processes so that they can follow a standard process and everyone can benefit out of each other, and also developing standardization techniques so that it's easy for everyone to follow. And what could go wrong? Does anyone want to take the other 2 points? Srinivas, Shravanti, Vani? Okay. So what could go wrong? What are the impacts of any risk? So what could go wrong here could be
I think, yeah, there's lots of things that in that risk you're saying, lots of human critical thinking, right? Because you're having AI agents looking at it rather than human agents, they're not as creative, right? So
right.
maybe that last part. black box issues. Why is agents? Why is the LLM acting like this, right? So there's a lot of risk that you guys put on there as well. So
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah,
yeah,
again, AI can suggest us anything. So it is, we need to look at the accuracy part of it. And obviously, using AI, there is a lot of code that we are exposing. So there are security issues which we need to take care. And who are the stakeholders here? So there are different people working on it, like including product manager, developers, QA teams, AI experts. So they all can benefit out of it and make use of a single collaborative platform to develop to do your rapid development. Yeah, that's all
awesome.
from my side, Louis. Anybody
Very
want to add anything?
very comprehensive.
Thank you.
So yeah, group three, very interesting. This was like a use case that I think a lot of people will have issues with as they come and adopt AI tools. A lot of them want to improve their software development life cycle, so they're implementing these AI tools to help them increase. But there's still some risk, and like I said before, this one's particularly focused on the quality that was coming out of it. So remember we talked before in week one, there needs to sort of be a shift. If you're adopting AI tools, there should also be a shift in how you're actually using your processes now, because things will now change. So excellent ways to develop those strategies. Great job, group three. All right, group four.
Good morning, everyone. Our discussion topic was team efficiency. When Louis mentioned about the paradoxical nature of this problem about team efficiency, it really stuck a chord with me last week. So the problem statement here is that we all acknowledge that AI has increased the individual productivity. However, that doesn't necessarily translate to the team productivity, and this is indeed a paradox. And the goal of our discussion was to recommend an approach for better cross-functional collaboration, process alignment, and the team coordination to minimize this gap in efficiency between team productivity versus individual productivity. So let's zoom into the problem. Historically, roadmaps are planned in somewhat of a sequential manner, which means this is what we are used to all these days, all these years. Now, there needs to be a shift in approaching the roadmaps by factoring in the various AI efficiencies that we get in different parts of the organization. And not all the teams have the same level of AI literacy. Even though AI is available for everybody uniformly, but the adoption and the literacy may not be uniform across the teams. And we also have this siloed approach in adopting AI. Some teams may be quicker in adopting, some teams may not be. As a result, we do see some inefficiencies. What are the solutions here? Recognize and parallelize the implementation upfront. So this is not something that we can get it right overnight. We need to execute like a few projects before we can start understanding the orchestration that happens with multiple teams in the same project when AI is considered. We factor in the AI efficiency upfront, so everyone has a better understanding of the delivery timelines. Similarly, establishing a central governance team to bring the best practices is identical. This is not relevant to our business case. It is relevant to almost all the 5 use cases here are business cases. There needs to be a central body that can govern, dictate, establish best practices for the entire company. And the resources that we need here is we want to use the compression approach to collaborate simultaneous development methodologies. As I mentioned, AI governance team is needed, central team to support all the teams and specific project initiatives. A big chunk of this comes from training employees on the latest topics, effective tools usage. A lot of these tools in today's environment, they are quite intuitive, but there will always be an efficient ways of using them. For example, prompt engineering. Even today, I don't see a good prompt engineering across all the engineers. So that clearly shows that there is a difference in understanding and there is some level of training that's needed. Central AM team should continuously, obviously, analyze the tools, what's best in the market, and bring the relevant ones to the company. Now, let's look at the costs here. The LLM, AI tools maintenance costs, and if there are tools that we have subscribed to or the company has either enterprise model license or individual to specific orgs, those costs are going to be the main ones. And there will be a cost of unnecessary downtime. This is not so much as the dollar cost, or that will translate to the dollar cost. Let's say team 1 finishes in 3 days and team B wants 8 days, but there is a gap of a few days, because of which the next team cannot start. And this minimization is a cost to the organization because we are not using the employee resources during that downtime. So that's another thing that we want to highlight. And when we come to benefits, we fully want to leverage the power of AI by minimizing the downtime or wait time by each team. And team morale can be consistent. What happens is that, let's say if 3 teams, there are 3 teams in a project and 2 teams complete, but another one is taking much longer than the other 2 teams, or if it is not planned well, then there will be a effect to or impact to the team morale in terms of the overall delivery. So it does make sense to have this very accurate planning in order to minimize those downtimes. And the scope, ensuring that all the teams involved leverage AI, and proper project planning is really needed by understanding the efficiencies that we can get from AI. And action items and start and dates clearly defined for each member. This is not necessarily true for just the AI situation. It's true for any project management. It has been true for historically for all the initiatives, but it is more so important in the AI environment because the software industry is still in the process of transitioning to this new way of development. When it comes to risks, teams adopting the AI may go faster than the others, and it may be hard for other teams to catch up. Well, this translates to planning. And business impact may be hard to measure accurately. Again, it all depends on what are the measures that we are going to use. This is not something that companies can get right at once. It's going to take some time. Not all the teams may have the same level of efficiencies. Now let's move on to the metrics part. This is important. Yes, we are producing more software in a given unit of time, but is it of the same quality that we had before, or is it better? This can be, one of the measures can be to have the production incidents. Last year we saw X number of incidents. Did we see, like, say 50% of that or 150% of that this year after using AI? So that can be a very good customer facing customer impacting measure. And number of defects closed. This is a quality straightforward metric. And the velocity is one of the key metrics. We adopted how many number of features or the roadmap items are we able to deliver compared to the same unit of time window last year. And stakeholders, we certainly need a center of excellence team which can establish the guidelines and share it periodically, communicate with all the orgs, and provide the necessary trainings. Those are internal teams, stakeholders. And some teams are more excited about the change, and some are watching it cautiously. This is where the COEs need to normalize the adoption more uniformly across the organization.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you, Group 4. Lots of things. I don't think I have much to add. You guys went really detailed into what are proposed solutions or some benefits of this. And yeah, we talked about this last week, and these are some really great solutions to this problem. Thank you, Group 4. All right, last Group 5.
Okay, I'll start the problem statement. So basically, because of rapid development, there is an impact on the quality as well as maintaining the proper documentation. In fact, these two are, kind of monkeys in the room that are often ignored. But both are very important to maintain. So both quality and documentation. So, this impacts all the stakeholders, including development, QA, and also the production support teams. Lack of documentation, and also customers are impacted if the QA is not done properly. So solutions, we come across a couple of solutions. One is creating a proper testing strategy and also maintaining it up to date. Because of rapid changes in the requirements, we need to update the QA documentation up to date. The second one is adapting to schema first approach. So basically making the documentation mandatory. So it helps both development team and QA team as well. So resources, again, the common resources, developers, testers, the additional resources are technical writers who can maintain the documentation properly, because that's kind of bread and butter for the product. I mean, basically, it's a myth that developers spend most of the time on development, but it's not. Basically, we suppose spend more time on requirement gathering and maintaining the proper documentation and testing rather than development, because development won't take much time if we properly maintain all these things. So I'm training the employees, especially constantly on the requirement changes. Employees in the sense both developers and QA here. And the benefits are a lot of benefits. We only added few here. So maintaining a good documentation helps in delivering the product fast. It improves the timelines. And also, creating a good QA strategy. And, maintaining a good documentation also helps to maintain the product once it is pushed into production. The production support team can make use of it, as well as, if there are any enhancements happen in the future. So that would be easy if you maintain a good documentation. And by creating a testing strategy, it ensures a good quality. So basically, especially with the rapid changes in the requirements, so keep the QA documentation, QA test cases up to the date according to the latest requirements. Scope is again similar to the other things. So maintaining a QA strategy up to date and make the documentation mandatory. So in that way, we make sure all the latest requirements are being documented. So yeah, there are a couple of risks, including, since the requirements change very rapidly, it's not easy to maintain the QA document up to date. because in the middle of QA cycle, the requirement may change and developers may change the code, and so that's unavoidable, because whenever there is a change in the requirement, yes, but only thing what we can do is update the QA test cases or QA strategy and documentation in sync with the latest. They should be in sync with the latest requirements. Here the stakeholders are everyone, including developers team, production support team, QA team, as well as the end customers, because it involves the quality of the product. Cost, again, yes, it includes training costs for all the development and QA team, and of course AI tools. Yeah, there are a couple of metrics to measure that. One is to time to integrate, adoption of the product. Basically, measuring, basically, the number of issues we faced once we move that production product to the production. So that's how we can measure the effectiveness of this solution. I think I pretty much covered everything. Yeah, if I miss anything, Group 5, please add.
I think you covered enough. I don't think.
Great job, group 5. So yeah, this one was a good one, right? So how do we ensure that the quality and maintenance is happening, especially on this area? And you guys gave solutions, create those unit tests, integration tests, component tests. As much as AI is good as it is, it's still not 100% at coding, or it's not 100% at different tasks. So other approaches to that, to verify, right? To verify the codes, and I think to verify its products, its whatever its output is awesome in terms of reviewing and ensuring that it's up to standard, right? And that's the most amazing part. So great job, everyone. And I think this was a really great first part of the session. And remember, in this class, we have people from diverse backgrounds, right? We have directors, VPs, we have PMs, we have everything in this class, and everyone sort of is bringing their experience and sharing how they would bring from a real strategy perspective. So that's really great that we have this participation and everyone can hear from these experienced leaders as well as we go through this class, and that's really awesome. All right, so right now it's 12:06. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break. We're going to continue on with week 2's lesson from here, and this is a great job, everyone, and everyone grabbed the right concepts from last week, so I'm really happy from that. So I'll see everyone in 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes are up. Well, great job, everyone. Just want to give everyone a quick break to regroup after that conversation. Hopefully that your coffee is now kicked in and we're able to get into some good content this week. So let's understand more as we understand that what is Gen AI? What are the top use cases, especially in businesses? And we'll go a little deeper into where Gen AI is now, and where companies focusing on, and where's the hype, where it isn't, and understand a little bit more of what type of Gen AI is out there and how to increase the adoption. So I'm going to start off with these two slides. So they're coming from the ISG report. This one on the left is 2024, and to the right is 2023. Here we're going to make a quick comparison of what most people think is going to be the most highest common use case versus the highest investment use case. So if we focus on 2024, we can see that a lot of individuals believe that customer service chatbots are going to be the top use case, but also the highest investment use case as well. So as long as service chatbots are coming out, they're going to be the most common and the most highest invested because their job is to automate a lot of messaging. As you know, a lot of people in the customer call center and they're coming in, they're asking questions, but you want someone who is 24 hours, right? And a lot of companies are actually going really cheap, right? A lot of people are going overseas to do a lot of their customer call center services. They're trying to reduce that cost as much as possible. And they see LLMs being able to answer, the first thing they think about is, okay, great, this is something I can use. Let's make this happen, right? So this is why you see customer service chatbots, one of the highest invested use cases out there on the top, because again, they want to automate a lot of those interactions coming through. So next we go through automated IT testing. Sort of what we talked about in today's business use cases. How can we automate a lot of things, for example, like Lint or things in even on GitHub? Once codes get pushed up there, how can we test it and make sure it's good? Things like that, right? So as you can see here, customer service support as well, top invested. So a lot of CX customer service is sort of hitting that top supportive in 2020 in this year 2024. Let's compare it to top 23 in terms of top generative AI use cases. This virtual assistant was not really that like pretty much wasn't as priority at that time. As you can see here, that virtual assistant was still like sort of the medium, one of the top priorities, but still not the top priority in 2023. What they were looking at mostly was that they're seeing that these LLMs could produce code. And they really wanted to push forward anything to do with coding. And you can see in the 2023 chart on the right side, they said that no, LLMs are going to be the best at coding, everything that's happening. And then you can see on the left side that the IT part is it's not even that top part, maybe part of the IT testing, but it's dropped significantly. And this is due to a lot of software engineers are saying, hey, it's saving me time, but I'm still writing my own code. So that push of code generation is going to be the next level, although it's not as hyped up anymore. It's not as invested anymore as these companies coming out now, right? Another a lot of people didn't understand was they thought Gen AI was going to be like machine learning, that you can throw a whole data set at generative AI, and then the generative AI is going to look at it and say, okay, you know what? Here's a decision tree that I made based off the data coming in, and I'm going to predict that you're going to have the following forecast. So that's a huge mistake because again, as you understand how generative AI is, it's a token predictor of what should be the what's most common use. It's like a language structure and understanding. It's not meant to really drill down and do deeper analysis into this. Of course, now if you talk about agents, where you can add tools and have it do code and then extract the code formation, then that's completely different. But in terms of if you give it an LLM that has no tools and say, here's a data set, Give me the top predictions of forecasting of what of the credit scores, etc. It's gonna guess something, but it's not gonna be predicted. It's not gonna be based on statistics. It's not gonna be based on anything else. It's only based off token, right? So as you can see here, some expectations of what Gen AI could do and what people think are going to be working on has significantly changed as we go on and we adopt, and we're actually seeing, hey, where's actually the most value coming in using Gen AI? And it'll constantly be like this as AI will come out. Maybe next couple of months, an AI model will come out and have complete 100% coding capabilities, and then wow, then that's going to switch all the investments from the service chatbots now back to the code generation side. So it really depends on the race of which LLM is coming out, and really the next focus is going to be in. So here's a quick Gen AI feasibility in terms of what is the use case / feasibility matrix. So feasibility is the bottom, means how feasible is it to do. The business impact as well, from if it's a low impact, low investment versus high impact, high investment. Yeah, it's really interesting. So this one is the IG report. Again, the IG report is not comprehensive of all industries. They do sampling. And so maybe there's sometimes that healthcare isn't put on that way. So maybe that's why they're not showing up in these reports. So what this means is if something that could be done quickly and it has very low business impact, it won't affect it that much. Example, you have chatbots right here at the bottom, right? Chatbots is something that can be done quickly, not going to affect the business. You're not going to affect your stock market prices. It's something that could be done fast, easy. If it messes up, you can stop it, switch to humans anytime, right? So the business impact is low. So a lot of people try to end up right here in the middle. This is what a lot of companies are right now, where they're trying to look for what's something that's sort of medium impact versus medium feasibility. So you can see the SLVLC automation in here, creating synthetic data, how to create audio, text generation, content improvements. A lot of companies are in that business impact medium because they want to take that high risk. Once we go to low feasibility and high impact, this is where the healthcare comes in, right? So doing new drug designs, just using generative AI is something that could create high impact, right? You can have it look at tons of data, then show it going on there. ChatGPT came out with a new model. I think it's called, I forget which one it's called right now. It's called O1 Pro or something like that. It's on their $200 subscription. And that $200 subscription that you can produce from OpenAI comes with their smartest model. And then they say that you can come up with new ideas, with new designs of how to do drugs and things like that as well. But again, if you're trying to use something to create high value, you're using that model, you're paying $200 a month just to create ideas versus typically paying the $30 for like a pro version versus their ultra pro version that they have that you can pay $200 for. Video generation, very high impact. They came out with a model that can sort of render itself at the real time. So as someone's walking through, let's say, space, there's this LLM in the background that's generating code to develop more space, more space, more space, more space as the user's walking. And that is huge impact because now you're creating a gameplay that has unlimited walking value. Someone could be playing this game for years. Now that you have to come out a new game every single year, you can create this one single game that can be generated, automated, everything like that. And then how they make their money is through service packs, right? Upgrades or new levels or new design that way. So they can get the most money that way. So again, these are very high impacts, low feasibilities. But now for something that has a little bit more on the high and high, again, goes back to that code generation. If we're able to get a LLM model that can do the 100% coding with no errors, this would be the highest impact. And again, this comes down to if I don't know how to speak Java, I don't know how to write Java code or how to React. I don't know how to do front-end coding. I don't know how to do back-end coding. I don't know HTML. I don't know this. And you have an LLM that can now, if you tell it, hey, I want a front end and here's a design and this is exactly what I'm looking for, and it's like, and create me, and it's able to do it all in one shot perfectly, and you can integrate that with your code. That's like we talked before, speed in production. That is actually be able to do things again in a very efficient way and very high impact. Of course, we're still in the middle of all this. None of it is 100%. But if we're looking at what could be, when business look to what can I do to do high ROI for my business, they come back and they create this feasibility matrix in which you can sort of design it for your own business and try low to high, and what would really be really high impactful and where the technology is standing. Now, you need someone to know a little bit more of how AI and where its capability is to be part of those conversations to sort of help you decide where in the feasibility. But for the business impact, you can definitely help and push forward for those. So this is something that we always talk about in my work, is the Gen AI hype cycle. So this is what Gartner has sort of created, where it's called the hype cycle peak, where we look where innovation is, where a lot of things with LLM is coming up, a lot of the new things happening. The top of the peak is where you have like, this is like, I believe this is going to be life changing. I think this is going to be like the most craziest thing, and then people talk about it they over talk about it, and then once you go down the peak of inflated expectations, like we saw before in 2023, they talked about coding is going to be the top thing, and then afterwards, at 2024, we'll see like it'll drop, saying actually coding's all right. It's not as amazing. So it drops that peak of inflated expectations. They go through a time of sadness until they finally realize, well, okay, what can I do to make it better? So this is where we are in terms of what's going on and grabbing from there. So someone had a quick question of what is conversational analytics? Conversational analytics is real-time analysis of a conversation in terms of extract emotions, sentiment, extract real inflections, and analyzing voice patterns, etc. So this is part of that top high impact, because if you can sort of capture all those analytics listening to a voice, that'd be great. Now, in terms of can that happen? Yes. But we know that call centers receive 60,000, 100,000 phone calls a month. Now, if you're to analyze every single conversation, currently, that's going to be a very high cost. Most companies, when I worked for a bank, only analyzed 5 to 15% maximum of total sample size, and then they use the sample size, right? But imagine if there's a way to analyze every single conversation, and not have to do sampling or statistical analysis to understand what's happening, and just able to capture all those analytics, then you would really provide really high value to that business. So that's what it's meant for, that conversational analytics. So you can see here what was really the high peak of 2023 in terms of inflated expectations. Prompt engineering was a big one. You could think anyone thought you could just prompt engineer a model and be able to do anything you want. But as you can see here, that if a model hasn't been trained on data, you can't really prompt engineer a model to do what it needs to do. AI, augmented software engineering, was going to be the next big hype. Models were going to be the biggest one. Synthetic data, things like that as we goes on. So it was sort of being, in 2023 was the most top about conversations. Yes, and sort of being what's happening. So what's happening in 2024 that we saw? A lot of the hype is sort of now going through. People have gone through and seen, okay, LLM models actually are working, but they're not exactly what I thought they were going to be. And accelerators for workloads were not really going to happen here. Model ops, synthetic data, things were actually now passing through that peak. And companies are now realizing, okay, well, maybe I hyped it up last year, maybe just way too much. And we're now seeing that this stuff is valuable, but it's not going, we're not going to be talking about it as crazy as before. And as you can see through the peak, there's nothing really at that peak. Right now, you can still see that RAG is still sort of being the top conversation for 2024 of what was being discussed. But right now, what's really accelerating and really going to go through the slope of enlightenment soon, based off these models, are the Gen AI enabled virtual assistants. And this is huge. And many companies are now taking this more seriously. They're putting more time into these virtual assistants. And right now, and they're going to go through that slope of enlightenment very soon, right? So you can see that the plateau of Gen AI, Gartner estimates it's going to be 2 years. They're going to be able to perfect those Gen AI enabled virtual assistants and reduce those hallucinations. So again, I think Gartner's being a little optimistic in 2 years that we're going to be and it's not going to have hallucinations, but that's what they have on their scope of what's going to be the next topics from there. And for those who are curious, just based off time right now, what's really coming up and what's being discussed, you can look at all these different types of ways of AIs being enabled on this side, and we'll talk about more about what these are in the next couple of slides. So same thing with the feasibility matrix. Gartner simply called this the impact radar for generative AI. Some of this may be new for you guys. So again, I'm going to give you these slides after class and really try to digest a little bit more, because it's hard to digest everything at once. What I'm doing is very high level, so you can understand of how the chart works and understanding. But again, this meant for you in terms of business impact of, as you do your own business cases, as you look at your own strategy, which one of these actually make the most sense for you and can actually achieve the highest ROI. So as we talked about before, Gen AI enabled virtual assistants are in the range of now. So these are the things that we're seeing that's being used daily in businesses, that's being the most impactful. Same thing with knowledge graphs. I remember on Wednesday, someone asked about LangGraph and how can we use this. LangGraph is a way to sort of store different types of knowledges of information to be viewed through an LLM. So these knowledge graphs are actually being used as well today as one of the most impactful parts of AI. So from these are really the top two impactful that we're doing now. Now, as you move away from the egg, I call it the egg yolk, we're going to the 1 to 3 years. These are the different types of models that will be coming through as well, and be able to slowly move their way into the now range as well. So this chart is broken up to 4 different sections. Anything that deals with models. So this is how you would create an LLM. What are the different ways to create LLMs? That's where you see open source, diffusion models, light LLMs. That has to do with anything to do with LLMs being created. To the left of this is the application. How can these be applied? So these are AI engineers who are going to be developing AI products. What are their most impactful and where they are in terms of their ranges. The bottom left, the build and data related, are how the data is being stored. If it's going to be through AI synthetic data, scalable vector databases, genetic engineering tools, where are they being stored in, and how is knowledge being stored for them? And then to the right is the model performance and AI safety, which I think is one of the most important ones that need to be looked at. You can see that hallucination management is one of the biggest impacts that it has, very high in this impact center, because again, LLMs do hallucinate, and they still do to this time, and there hasn't been a way to stop it in terms of that part, right? So it's saying that it's in that 1 to 3 year mark. They believe that's going to be done. I think it's hopefully optimistic, but that's sort of what the next big part of that radar is. So again, this is a quick radar of the 4 different ways how generative AI is being impacted. So I know a lot of people haven't taken Gen AI 101. So I'm going to talk a little bit more of the basics and just from a little bit for here, just to give everyone the same footing of how these LLMs work. What are RAGs and what are agentic AI? Because those are the top 3 products right now in terms of generative AI, what's happening. So again, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll try to go through this very high level. But right now is how do LLMs work today, and how do these generative AI works today? So a user just writes a response. An LLM will then take the response with their training data set that they're trained on, then able to give you a response that way. So if you go to ChatGPT, you write them a question, it hits their GPT model, the GPT model then gives a response. So that's very base LLMs. This is what you do for your chats. That's how everything is sort of run really fast today. Now, when we talk about RAGs or retrieval augmented generations, instead of having that query LLM response, what you do is you have a separate database, either through Chroma or some other vector database that you have, chunk them up into sections, that data that you have, and then when you have a question, it will check this context, what is most relevant, then feed it to the LLM, and then add it to your final response. So the difference between a normal LLM response is basically using the LLM knowledge. When you have a RAG, you're augmenting its information by adding things that it wouldn't know. An example of this is that you would use a RAG is if you had a bunch of PDFs from your business it's proprietary for your company. An LLM wouldn't be trained on proprietary information. So you would use a knowledge base, relevant context, separate. And then when you ask a question, it will look into this knowledge base, pull the relevant context, feed it to the LLM, and then give it a response. So that's why it's called retrieval, because you're retrieving information from the storage database that you have and then finding it to a response. So that's in really high terms, a RAG versus just a normal LLM chat. And that's why RAGs are really the cheapest option, because there's two ways to add information to an LLM. One is doing this way, or two is called fine tuning, in which you're actually editing your LLM and trying to train it on the data set that you have. But this is definitely the most cheapest way, because fine tuning does require lots of graphics cards and lots of memory, and fine tuning costs come to $10,000, $15,000 just even on smaller models to do that, right? So a RAG could cost you probably only $150, $200 if you have terabytes of data, or free if it's very small. So this is why RAGs are the most used use case, simply because of it being really small. So hopefully that was very clarifying of what's basically just a normal LLM chat. And when you hear someone saying, hey, we're going to do a RAG, it's simply just creating a vector storage database, adding relevant context into it, and having a query, having your LLM then retrieve the information from this database and giving it to an LLM for response. All right, so, and before we started this class, a lot of people were asking about, are we going to go deeper into agentic AI? So I'll go deep. I'll probably take 10 minutes, something on agentic AI, simply because it's a hot topic of what it is. So hopefully I'll be able to explain it to layman terms. And again, if you have any questions of what agentic AI is, please put them in the chat and I'll try to answer as it goes on. So agentic AI is when you have an LLM given multiple tools. So there's a bunch of tools you can give an LLM. So going back to this graph, instead of having, you can have a knowledge base like this one right here, and then you can have that exact same picture pointing out and say, do an API call to the internet and pull information from the internet through an API call. Or you can have another one where you can have, I want you to write things into a database, and then you would have a database that way. So agentic AIs are AIs that have access to tools. They can have actions. So I want you to say, give me what's happening right now in the last 10 minutes on my webpage. So this is AI agent, where we could say it's an LLM, and it's giving an option to use a tool. We'll then go into and look at maybe a SQL database where the information's been monitored, write a text to SQL, write your text to a SQL code, pull the information from that SQL database, and then give it back to the user request. Or you can ask it to say, okay, can you tell me how many people we have in this department? And can you write me a report showing the last 5 people who were hired? So it'll go into the memory database that it'll have, make a decision of writing a text to SQL, pull the information from the department database. Then you have it create a report by using another tool. So probably use 2 tools to create your report and then bring it back to a user request. Or another way you can use an AI agent is to look at it and say, okay, what am I looking at? So the AI agent will be given access to your camera function. You'll have to have, this has to be a multimodal model, which looks at images, audio, things like that, and be able to understand what's going on in terms of your audio sensors. So basically an AI agent is an LLM that has an action to look at tools. So if you think about Python and you're like, okay, can you write me like when you write a Python function of saying, connect me to this API that connects me to Wikipedia, or give me an API that connects me to this. Python functions can do the same thing for you. They can pull information from the internet, can look at your camera, can open the camera, pull information in. So if we can have Python functions already do these agent tools, why do we need it? An AI agent is simply just a layer on top of it that could sort of analyze and look at the data before it comes to you. So this is why a lot of people are saying the future is AI agents, things like that, simply because you're able to then chain an agent to do multiple things. On Wednesdays, I think I was on Wednesdays office hours, I give an example that you can ask an AI agent to think about it in one certain way, then pass it to another LLM that will think about another way, and then pass it to a third LLM who will look at another way as well, right? So AI agents are sort of chained events or actions that you can be looking at. And so it's simply what an AI agent is. So simply going back to this chart, AI agents are really just retrievals or actions that have tools to really act upon it. And how smart is an AI agent is really dependent on which model you use. Now, if you use ChatGPT 3.5 and you told it to go to your memory base, it might go in there, might pull you out the top 5, it might hallucinate on 2, might make something up on 3 and give it back to you, and you receive a report with hallucinations. And you're like, well, this isn't right. So then you switch this model to maybe Gemini 2.0 and you upgrade it to Gemini 2.0, it's actually making better decisions and getting answers better right to you. You're like, oh, this model seems to be very smart. But what happens if I change it to Gemini 2.5 Pro, and you're seeing it's actually making better results? So your AI agent knowledge and how it's able to act on your tools and perceptions really depends on how smart your LLM works and how really smart your LLM is. So if you're having an AI agent that's talking to people that needs to make really tough decisions or really needs to do multiple tools or cognitions, you really need to be using the best smart reasoning model that's out there so it can give you the best results. If you try to go something that's very cheap and very light, your AI agent results won't be as good because some of them aren't trained to be tool calling or not trained to give you expected results that way. So your AI agent is really dependent on how smart your model is and what tools it is. So if you go to ChatGPT right now and you have the app or you have the website and you're telling, look me up, what's the latest information, it can now then go to the internet, pull the information in, and then show you in its text the internet information. So that is actually an agentic tool that goes to the internet, pulls information, reads it, and responds out to it. Someone asked, how do camera and audio data will be sent to LLM? So again, this is really dependent on Python functions or your JavaScripts that you have that opens your camera or can do a screenshot of your screen and send those as images. And I really said maybe I'll have time, maybe after the end of class, to do a presentation on how AI Google Studio does screen recording, and you can talk to the LLM and ask it what's going on with your screen, right? So you'll see that in those screen recordings, it records 3 or 4 seconds, sends it to the LLM, the multimodal model, and then it's able to review it and then answer your questions in real time. So that's how these LLMs are able to respond and look at your data and be able to answer. So some question, does MCP also function as agentic AI? So that's a very good question. And again, a lot of people might be confused what MCP is. I think this is from the best one right now I would give an example is from Claude. Claude has given us a tool that you can sort of open up in your terminal, in your computer, and have an LLM actually take over your computer and be able to action and do work. So you can tell it to, hey, at every day at 9 a.m., I want you to open up my Microsoft Word browser, send an email to my boss saying, hey, hope you're having a great day, and write him a message. So your MCP will then open up has access just like a tool. Will then open up your Outlook, open up the message, new mail, write the message, and then click send, right? So it does function as agentic AI because it is working and is retrieving information. It's just using your whole computer to respond. So yes, Santosh, it works as agentic AI. So that's correct, Shravanti. So the whole cognition of how smart, how well it's responding is really dependent on the LLM. As much as you try to train it, as much as you try to use it, if you have an LLM that is not as smart or may not has been trained properly, you won't get a good agentic AI experience doing this. So what are the different roles of agentic AI? And there's so many of them. So this is where I try to put everything into one area. And I saw that Gartner's had a really great plan of this, is that there's something called a solo agent. This is where you have one agent that goes in and retrieves information. You have agent roles where you can say, I want you to act as the judge, and another one, I want to act you as a lawyer, and I want you to look at this lawyer, I want you to look at this this court case I'm looking at, deliberate between the two, and then give me the response back. So then you're giving each LLM different roles assigned to do, and then it's able to then return your responses based off the different roles. Next is agent-to-agent handoff. You can tell an LLM to say, okay, when you look at information, prepare it, and I want you to make it speak like a pirate. And then the second agent, I want you to look at it, and I want you to give it to change the format and change it to another language. So each agent will, just like the agent roles, will be having different things to do, but one agent actually doing all the tasks before sending it off to the next one, to the next one, next one. And that comes to the bottom part of multi-agent modularity. You might have heard something called swarm of agents, things like that. This is what that multi-agent modularity is that you can have many different types of agents underneath. Maybe one to find that you can really have your own company, one HR agent, one finance agent, one IT agent, one whatever it is. And you're like, I want you to be in charge of this business. And as interactions that come through, I want HR to store all the employees. I want finance to record this in our finance sheets. I want IT to store this in our database. And you feed it that information, and then each one has their own actions and all of them working at the same time in parallel. So you can have these different types of agents happening at the same time. And as you think about your business, these are limitless, right? The options are limitless of what you can do and with these agent architecture patterns. So again, when people say, what are AI agents? It's hard because there's so many different types of agents in terms of architecture. You can't just say there's one way of doing this. And inside these agents, you can assign different interaction patterns, right? So again, React is when you want it to do one tool versus another. So let's say you have it to look up Wikipedia versus today's date. You can ask it to say, what is today's date? Instead of going into Wikipedia, it will only focus on using the today's date function versus looking at that, right? So creating something that reacts based off the user's query and only using the tool that's necessary. You also can tell it to retry if it's not able to get more information in. You tell it to do a chain of thought to break down users' questions into different pieces before responding. You can tell it to do, I want JSON responses to do things before, or you can have an agent that reflects. And this is what really a lot of these deep thinking models have come out with. There's something called reflection, in which before they answer a user's query, they'll stop and analyze and break down your question into multiple responses and reflect if the answer coming out makes sense. And then you'll see it on ChatGPT's newest model, DeepSeek's model. These are called reflection models, and of course they're more expensive because you're spending more time using their LLMs, and they're actually thinking about the whole process. Does it make sense? They're double checking, triple checking the work. And because these interaction patterns can be used, each one can be used in one agent. You can have an agent that does React. You can use another agent that has chain of thought. You can have another agent that just structures your responses, or you can have one agent do all four interaction patterns. It's really dependent on how smart your model is, how cheap it is to use that model, how there's different ways of doing it. But there's so many different ways of building AI agents that, like I said, this is a good chart to really start to think about it, because if this is going to be the future, you need to understand what are all the different options that agentic AI can do. So I'll quickly go through some of them more because time is flying by. You might have to pause this into the next week's lessons. But what are agentic patterns? Is, again, like I said before, function calling. So in the React, you can tell it to do a function call to either have today's date or run a Python function. You can have it to generate executed code. Maybe you have already pre-built SQL codes that you want the model to react on if someone asks a question, or you want it to look in the internet and pull information from the internet, or pull information from an API that you already have set up that's connected to your business security side, and you can have an LLM react and do one of these different types of patterns. So again, like I said, there's tons of options. You can have it do memories. You can look at RAGs of pulling extra information in, have it store memory. So this is conversational history. If you want someone to have a specific ID, and say you're having a chat bot, and someone types in their ID number, you can then have it pull the information of that user's interactions with you previously, and then give it to the LLM before the LLM responds to that user's query, and continue having that memory longevity, or you can have that memory scope, etc. So this is where the agentic memories can come in as you're editing these LLMs. And you can have many different ways of implementing it. You can tell it, I want you to do a prescribed plan. I want you to do dynamic, to be dynamic based off the user's questions. This is the swarm. Like, you can have all these agents working around an orchestrator. You can have it, before it gives a response out, to have it sent to a human in the loop to do a final review before it gets sent out. These are just different types of patterns of architecture you can tell these LLMs to do on top of it. To the right are just different types of evaluations you can do as well, and how to secure it. But the main purpose of here, I want people to understand in terms of agentic AI, is that when people say, what is agentic AI? Can you do a breakdown? Is that there's so many ways that you can have an agentic AI. It could be very simple to very complicated. It could be different types of patterns in one agent versus those different types of patterns broken out into many different LLMs. And again, it comes down to, we'll talk about next week, is the cost. What is the cost of doing this? What is the cost of doing that? So that's what really it really comes down to, and what is your purpose of trying to build this out, and what are you trying to achieve? So before you go in and you start building these things, this would be really cool. You need to really think about what's the real purpose of you designing an agentic AI purpose of the agentic AI problem. Once you identify the problem, what's the benefit? And when you understand what's the benefit, you come down to start solutioning. Do I need this? Should I be using this? Should I be looking at that? What kind of ways I can be looking at that? And this is really a part of the business part where you're like, okay, what can AI do that can help my business increase or do something that's better? So maybe you're one person that relies on 5 people to do different tasks, but maybe in your way, you can have like, okay, well, what if I have an agent that does QA for me? What if I have an agent that does my code check for me? What if I have an agent that cleans up my code for me? And you build these different agents out, and then you simply just give your code to these different agents, and then boom, 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 you optimized that performance and you optimize the whole plan, but it's going to cost, let's say, $15 or $20 to run through that different APIs if you had tons of data. Then that's where the business case come from. Okay, this costs $20 to do this. Is this something that's viable? Is this really worth that money to do something like this? Is it really getting the most bang for your buck? Is it really meeting the expectations? Is the quality good? And these are all things that you need to look at after you develop, or before you even start developing something after that POC stage, right? And that's what I really want you to get into, is that is in your business mindset, as much as this is cool, as much as you having it in there, is it really truly providing you value? And what's the cost? Because this is something that most people don't think about, is the true AI cost of running these types of models. Okay, so I'm looking at time here. I'll probably get through about 5 more slides, and then I'll take a pause, and then we'll have to continue next week to the time. But what is Gen AI adoption? So we talked about the hype. We know the hype is real. We know where we're going. We talked about what kind of AI is out there, through normal AI, through RAG, through agentic AI. So now that you sort of know high level of what this is, you know for sure there has to be, there is benefits of running this. So in order to sort of integrate it into your culture, your organization, into teams, you sort of have to build, you have to find ways to build with Gen AI. So I'm just simply going to focus on that one use case of, if you're looking back here, that code generation or the IT testing, that's all part of the software lifecycle deployment. So in order to build proper AI, you need to sort of have really good software development. So here I'm just giving an example of how to build with Gen AI, but there's different ways you can use this across many different ways of doing it. But the point is, in order to build, in order to have Gen AI, you sort of need to build it. And on Wednesday's office hours, someone asked a good question, build versus buy, right? When is it time to use, I think this person's example was AWS's RAG versus us building a RAG in our own information, in our own way. And it comes down to two things. One, if you have the experience and you have sort of budget to do this and to experiment and create a build-up POC, and this is great. You can then build it on your own side, try, open it up to that vector store, run it, and see how well you're able to do it. But if your company's asking, okay, you know what, I need something fast, I need something simple, I need something running out the door doesn't really need to be customized, this is when you would then use a third-party tool, whether it be AWS, whatever RAG software you want to use, and you just upload your documents and have it do it automatically for you. So you would then keep adopting that sort of that way. One second, I'm just jumping in. Sorry about that, guys. So what's most important for this is to really understand that the build versus buy is really what we have to figure out in your own company, what makes sense in terms of having Gen AI adoption. So in here on this slide, what I put here is how can we help push that narrative that Gen AI is good. So one example I put here is that in 2024, in February of last year, Klarna reported they had a new AI-powered chatbot. So I'm not sure if you guys used Klarna's chatbot. It's actually really interesting. It has some conversational AI capabilities, but it's mostly an FAQ chatbot as well. And they said by actually switching it to this new chatbot, that was able to cut resolution times faster and able to save 40 million annually while maintaining customer satisfaction levels. So it's not only about saving yourself money, it's saying, did the customers find itself to be very satisfactory, or did they very frustrated? You can have the best chatbot there is that's answering all the questions, but if your customer base is interacting with it, and although you're saving money, they're not happy with it or dissatisfied, then you're losing customers. And they don't like, well, I don't want to deal with this customer because they really have bad customer service, and you lose those customers. The key is, one is to reduce cost by having these LLMs, and two, also maintain that same customer satisfaction levels or even improve it as things go on. So how do you develop something like that? First is look at what's currently a manual process. Identify tasks and problems that could be improved and select what tools could it be. Is it a RAG? Is it normal just LLM? Is it agentic AI that's going to solve the problem? Then you go to the POC mode, which is you automate and enhance that process using it. And then if it's good enough, then you go next and you do innovations and make it more efficient, making that final solution. So this is how you can quickly start looking at your own processes currently look for current manual processes, identify tasks and problems that can be simply simplified, automate and enhance that process, and make it innovative and efficient. And you have to make sure that your outcomes can be measured. So this is the most important part of doing something like this. He's like, well, I think it looks good and I think we can use it. It's not good enough. If you really want to make a proper business case of this needs to be used and this needs to be done, you need to have an adoption rate or outcomes that can be measured. So an example, if you're putting in a new AI coding assistant that can help your engineers to do better, what's the percentage of users that are using it? Or how many people are using this new AI adoption you put on your website that helps you do more, that can do shopping online? Once you establish that and you're seeing that it's actually getting really high adoption rates, that's when you really have a high business case to keep investing into it and make it better that way. So ensure that you have these outcome metrics if you're going in there and pushing forward these adoptions. Okay. So why GenAI adoption in software development is so important? Adopting GenAI in software development is crucial for staying competitive. So, like I remember we talked before the paradoxes of saying, well, if I'm using it, I'm finding myself productive, then how come my team isn't running faster? Yes, that's true, and the paradox is there, but it's still better than not using anything, right? So although we said that it's still a paradox and teams aren't increasing their efficiencies, if you're not leveraging the technology now and finding ways to find solutions, your competitor is using it and trying to find ways to use competitive. So some people might say, well, right now you can see that the processes aren't really well defined. Individual contributions is getting better, but I'm still getting the same time. I'll wait until maybe another company figures out. So during that time that you're waiting, your competitor is going to be using this technology. Your competitor is going to try to figure it out, and they will gain that first to market because they'll be gaining that potential advantage over you, right? So it's in order to stop waiting, it's better to get into the race now, figure out how can really make a significant impact on your work, figure out how can automate routine tasks, make it more efficient, and help you or your business become more competitive in today's market. Today, there's been lots of studies of people with experiments with a variety of projects. Someone mentioned they're using Copilot in their workplace, and they're finding major productivity in terms of what they find really working. So there are ways that we can find that basic routine tasks are being automated. So I think that on the basic rate was 20% acceleration of individual productivity is 5 times faster. So remember, it used to take you a while to think about how you're going to draft that email. You can now use an LLM to help you think about and draft that email quickly. People are finding that basic routine tasks of even summing information up, looking at analysis, that's actually helping them become faster. And that's something that we talked about last week, that yes, it's still happening. There has been overall improvement, backlog health, a lot of things are being rewritten, time to get leads. People are writing RFP faster to respond because they're using the help of LLMs to really respond questions as well, right? So there are improvements and gains in certain areas that I would say that GenAI adoption, although not 100%, not fully fulfilling 100% in terms of where it is fulfilling its needs in other areas, and therefore should still be used in order to be that way. So there is something to be critical to understand, that there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. Each environment, team, and projects are unique, and the impact of GenAI varies accordingly. So as a rule of thumb, I think it said in the report that you can expect an average increase to 5 to 20% to anyone who's using GenAI in their day-to-day work at this point. So as much as you go forward, there really is use cases out there. There's people who are still very hesitant of using GenAI. There are tons of information, tons of ROI, tons of efficiencies that can be sold and pushed forward from that point of view. So if you're finding that you're in a place that your team isn't using a lot of Gen AI, you think a lot of people think it's still hype, or you think your company is that way, and you have a way to influence, and you really want to bring Gen AI to it, how can you pace and make that role of adoption happen? So this will be the last slide that I'll sort of be going through, maybe this one and the next one before I jump to the next part. But this is what I just want to leave off today is in order for Gen AI to be adopted and pushed forward and to be a crucial role in adoption is that if there's nobody leading that change may not happen. And this is where I think this business course will come in the sense that yes, you can learn how to do a RAG. You can join Gen AI 101 or 102 and learn how to do agentic AI. You can learn how to do your own coding. But if you don't have that business fundamentals really to sell that business case, if you don't have the point of going through it and going and looking at it, you won't be able to sell the product or sell that it might happen. And this is something that I always hear from my master's program I took. I had a good business teacher said that he sat down and created a machine learning, the best this industry he's ever created in his life. He found that in shipping, he was able to do a reduction and save the company $30 million a year if they choose to do less shipping to a certain postal code and be able to focus on shipping somewhere else. And he found it, he knew the company would be very successful. So he walked into the manager's room, sat down with his boss and said, listen, I can save you $30 million and I can do this for you. I can do this for you. I can do this for you. And you have to do this strategy. And the CEO of that company just came and looked at him and just couldn't connect the dots. He couldn't understand the story that he was selling. He said that he just focused on the numbers, and he knew for sure on a scientific proof that this would 100% save the company this money. Now, because he didn't understand the full part of being personable, of being able to explain everything in a business plan, be able to explain how this ties to strategy, how this ties to objectives, how this is ethical, not be able to explain things in a very in a proper way that a business meeting should be, because he looked at a very, very scientific method. The CEO said, no, like, we're not going to go through your idea. You know what, like this, I don't understand what you're trying to explain to me. No. So when he stepped back, he thought about it. As much as smart, and he's like, as smart as you want to be, as much as you know your coding, as much as you know information, unless you can communicate and be able to explain it in business terms and in a business sense, you won't be able to successfully convince others of how important your project is. And no matter, the numbers may speak for themselves, but still, if you're not able to communicate and be able to have that proper communication and bridge that gap between technical and business, you won't be able to sell something that's even like it could sell itself, right? And a lot of people may be wary of the information being sent to them. So this is what I'm saying. It's very important as you go through this, that you need to build those business skill sets, build that communication skills, build how we're talking about this in later on this course, is how to build those proposals that are persuasive, that any business leader will read and be able to tie this back to their strategy and say, you know what, this actually makes sense. And that's the most important part of your role in adoption, is as these Gen AI tools come out and they're showing these numbers, be able to communicate real clear, distinctive patterns of this is, right? So I see so here, right? So wrote in the group saying that the integrated GitHub Copilot, and he has found significant productivity, is able to look at his code, be able to verify it, be able to look at suggestions, find probably where he maybe did an indent, and that's really helped him save hours and hours in coding. So these are things that you want to bring up and be able to sell to maybe a reason why, oh, we don't think GitHub Copilot is going to be renewed this year because we're not finding significant changes, or we're not finding anyone who's actually given us proof that there needs to be a change from this, or we're removing this, right? So how do you fight that and keep that rule in adoption? And I put that thing on the bottom, GPT-4 Omni, that's a quote from it that says, if there's nobody leading the change, then a change might not happen. So in order for you to be successful, remember to always have those business conversations, be able to persuade that from there. So we're going to pause here and we'll continue on for next week's class. But really, what next week we'll be talking about is continuing what are the risks in Gen AI that may stop individuals who are going, how to keep adopting it, and then we'll talk about how to actually start doing costing of these roles of Gen AI. So unfortunately, I could not get to my questions today, but we'll definitely talk about the questions next class, and we'll probably do a quiz probably starting in next class as we finish this as well. So there's a lot of information today, and I really wanted to be a little bit more interactive as we went on. So hope everyone enjoys today's weekly lesson, and next week we'll keep talking about what's the risk of this Gen AI adoptions and how can we continue forward on this topic and this subject. So thank you for everyone for joining, and I can stay back for a couple minutes if anyone has questions.
Thank you, Louis.
Thank you, Luis.
Thank you everyone for
questions. Thanks, Luis.
Thank you, Luis, again for a great session. Love the workshop.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, yesterday. Thank everyone for joining. Great participation today.
Thank you, Louis. This was a great session.
Thanks very much.
Hey, Louis, this is Sudhir. You mentioned about Git Copilot, right? So we use Git Copilot and we have developed our own version of Git Copilot at our workplace. And it has improved significantly the quality of, especially for engineers who are recently joined the companies, the quality of code that they write and everything, it enhanced a lot. So we have been using it almost 2 years, 2.5 years now.
Amazing.
And one of the point you mentioned about Git Copilot, right? So I just was.
Yeah, no, GitHub Copilot has been enhancing productivity a lot, and I think I mentioned before. I think Meta said that even was it Meta or
Yes,
Salesforce?
Meta has mentioned that they might replace the developers.
Yeah.
It's coming to a state that developers are not needed anymore.
Yeah, so I think I think they're just hyping it up just a little bit, but it's definitely getting to the point where it's helping a lot. Like I said before, I was able to do something before I couldn't do with a front end, and GitHub Copilot wrote to me with the whole script of how to do a front end, and I was able to, after debugging, do this in 2-3 days, which I know would have taken me a month to do myself. So huge significant improvements.
Yeah, and also people who are not into new programming languages and new frameworks are coming. It enhances a lot. It helps. So recently, my AI team has developed a plugin so that it actually goes and does the check-in also. So they did a quick demo on our application. So where you write basically prompting, it creates our standard applications, right? If you want a maintenance application, internal applications, it creates a services, everything, and deploys into production. So it's a demo version, but it was able to demo with a standard thing, but it's long way to go. But like it was able to complete all the phases of the development.
Amazing, awesome. No, I really like GitHub Copilot.
Yeah.
There's
And
a lot there.
thank you for your sessions. It's great information. It's a lot of information to observe. I don't know how much of it is going in because today's session, like Gartner charts you are showing, it's incredibly informative, but I don't know how much of it is going in. It needs a lot of homework to be doing to
Yes,
get
yes.
all of the training that you have given. Thank you very much. Really appreciate for your time.
Thanks for joining. Thank you.
Bye. Have a great weekend, rest of the day.
You as well.
Bye.
All right. If there's any more questions, I
like on the MCP itself, like like you said, MCP and like agentic AI are both same. Like is it like different products, or like Anthropic and LangGraph, or like, because they are naming it as agentic AI and MCP, is it the same functionality, or like how are they different? Like which one to use where?
Yeah, so the MCP is more of a control of your whole computer. So pretty much you're giving access to your command terminal with MCP, and in your command terminal, you're allowing this LLM be able to write commands, take control of your computer, be able to move things, etc. So it's more of like a memory, like it's more of an overall interactive tool versus an agentic AI. You won't be able to give access to your whole terminal. Agentic AI, you won't be able to then have it be able to respond and do things by itself. You would then only be able to give it tasks and say, please write me this or please get me this, right? Meanwhile, MCP, you can say, okay, write me an email to my boss and do this. So it's going to go and look at your whole computer screen, access to this and that, versus agentic AI is more of tools of a tool calling. So MCP is simply just because it's integrated into your computer now and be able to view your screen, use your terminal, and be able to run things and be able to have all that access, versus just an agentic AI tool is usually run in a browser, only has access to certain plugins and won't have access to your computer. So that's really the difference between that MCP and the agentic AI currently.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the sessions. Like, yeah, have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, any more questions before I finish off the session here? If not, everyone have a great Saturday. If not, I'll see you in the office hours on Wednesdays. Okay, bye.